This is your morning Buzzcast for Wednesday, November 12th. I'm Abe Madkour. Thanks for listening. Arthur Blank's investment in soccer continues to grow as he will invest more than $300 million on an NWSL expansion team and build out a new training ground and headquarters. This is a significant statement from Blank and a huge shot in the arm for the NWSL. The team, which doesn't have a name yet, will begin play in 2028 in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which will have capacity reduced to about 28,000 fans. In addition to the $165 million expansion fee, Blank will spend more than $160 million also to build a training ground and headquarters, likely near Marietta, Georgia, and a new locker room for the NWSL team at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, among other startup costs. So all in all, this is a very significant investment. And if you think the expansion fee continues to increase, you're not wrong. The price that Blank will reportedly pay represents a significant increase from the $110 million the NWSL received for its 16th franchise in Denver earlier this year. The Atlanta franchise will be the 17th in the league and gives the NWSL one of the best owner and operators in sports with a background in soccer. Blank was, of course, behind the launch of Atlanta United. He has pledged $50 million to the development of U.S. Soccer's headquarters outside of Atlanta. And Mercedes-Benz Stadium will host 8 matches next summer for the World Cup. Arthur Blank is doing so much around soccer and so much in the city of Atlanta, it's really incredible what he is doing. Let's move on. The Snow League, which is Shaun White's startup snow property, has raised $15 million of new investment to support its continued global growth. Now, this investment round was anchored by a couple of interesting firms, 359 Capital, which is newly rebranded from Sapphire Sport, also existing investor Left Lane Capital, new investors Bitcraft Ventures, and Wise Ventures. That is the Wilf family's early stage investment arm. And of course, the Wilf family owns the Minnesota Vikings, among other sports assets. The Snow League initially raised more than $4 million in an initial seed round and then announced an additional $15 million in funding last year. So overall, it is starting to accumulate some pretty good investment. And the bet here by Shaun White is that snow sports is undervalued and underexposed. And remember, the Snow League held its first event at Aspen this past March, and the debut season continues. China next month in December, Aspen again in February, Switzerland in March, right after the 26 Winter Games. The Snow League has a media deal with NBC. Investors obviously see an opportunity for this new league to draft off any momentum from the Winter Olympics. So we will have to look at the interest in the 4 events that they present. We'll have to look at the athletes. We'll have to look at the competition. It's not easy to start a league, but investors are obviously confident and betting on Shaun White and his success. The run of private equity investing in sports business continues as Goldman Sachs is entering into the sports agency space with an investment in Excel Sports Management. And the Financial Times reported last month that Goldman Sachs was set to take a majority stake in Excel in a deal that valued the agency at nearly $1 billion. That is a hefty figure. Now, what will be different with this new investment? Well, you won't see any changes to Excel's leadership. Jeff Schwartz, Mark Steinberg, Casey Close, Alan Zucker, Emilio Collins, those are the key leaders at Excel. They will stay on board in their respective positions. The agency has grown quite methodically over the years. Yes, they have strong talent representation, but they've been smart to grow into other verticals, and they've become more active in areas like brand consulting, property sales and representation, executive search, media and content creation, and they advise a lot of professional sports teams. So Excel has certainly branched out, and with the support and investment by Goldman Sachs, Excel could continue to bolt on or acquire new disciplines that it's not currently in or strengthen existing verticals that they're already in. So, a good opportunity for Excel Sports Management to continue to grow with this investment from Goldman Sachs. Yes, you've heard us say it before, another day, another sports league. And I like this one because it really leans into the Western lifestyle and culture. Professional bull riders have announced a new brand, Premier Women's Rodeo. They are starting with one event in 2026 in May in Fort Worth, Texas. And this is a newly imagined event from a couple of other existing championships. PBR is currently pursuing media rights around Premier Women's Rodeo, and there are a couple of things at play here. They are leaning into the growth of women's sports, and they're also leaning into the interest around Western culture, driven by Yellowstone and other TV shows. The PBR will focus on building stories around these athletes in hopes of making women's rodeo more compelling and commercially viable. And being part of the Western culture is considered so cool these days that it really seems like this has the potential to be successful. Interesting launch with Premier Women's Rodeo in May of 2026. You know, Phish fans will be bouncing around the room with news that the Philadelphia Flyers will host what is believed to be the first theme night in professional sports, paying tribute to the jam band. It'll be January 8th against the Maple Leafs in Philadelphia. If you go, expect co-branded Phish Flyers t-shirts and a pregame concert by a local tribute band called Rift Philly. And I believe this will be successful. You've seen all the nights around the Grateful Dead. No reason why you can't have all these nights around Phish. They will draw, as Phish has a very loyal fan base, and the band is represented by Red Light Management, who I could expect to do more deals with more sports teams around theme nights and Phish. And let's end the Buzzcast around people in the news. First, USA Gymnastics has found its next leader, announcing MLS executive Kyle Albrecht as its president and CEO. He will start in his role at the beginning of the year. He takes over from an organization that was really rebuilt under previous CEO Lili Leong, who in 6 years really led a strong turnaround of the governing body and returned USA Gymnastics to being one of the more commercially viable organizations in the Olympic world. USA Gymnastics used CAA in the search process, and Albrecht has a lot of experience. He was at MLS, MLS Next. He was at Under Armour for 9 years, and we know his focus will be on having USA Gymnastics fully optimized for the LA 28 Summer Games. Remember, they had a big run in Paris. USA Gymnastics team claimed 11 medals, and he's taking over an NGB with a significant budget. They had more than $40 million in revenue in 2024, USA Gymnastics with a new leader. And a big move at Major League Soccer, as Deputy Commissioner Gary Stevenson will retire at the end of July 2026. Now, Gary Stevenson has a career in sports business that spans nearly 5 decades, and he played a key role in guiding MLS's media and commercial strategies, and he will stay on through the World Cup. He'll remain as an advisor through the end of 26, and this will be an interesting time for Major League Soccer, as the league will likely be transitioning much of its top leadership over the next few years. Remember, longtime executive Mark Abbott stepped down in 2022. Stevenson will step down after July of 2026, and certainly Don Garber will also be looking at moving on sometime in the near future. But Gary Stevenson has been a force in sports business from the 1980s when he was at ProServe. He was at the PGA Tour, the Golf Channel, NBA, NBA properties. He had his own agency on sport that was really ahead of its time, and he sold that to Wasserman in 2007. He was at the Pac-12. He has been a builder and an operator his entire sports career. And yes, he'll be around at MLS through next July. No word yet on next steps for Gary Stevenson, but trust me, this person is not done making a difference in sports business. And the takeaways from today's Buzzcast are: number one, I cannot say enough about Arthur Blank's investment in women's soccer. These are exactly the type of owners that the NWSL needs to continue to grow. And Blank is committed to investing and building a model franchise. Takeaway number two, Shaun White's Snow League gets $15 million in additional funding, so now we will have to watch what the content and monetization strategy is for this startup effort. Takeaway number three, Excel Sports Management gets investment from Goldman Sachs, and I would expect some of that investment to go to the continued building out of the agency that has really grown in relevance and influence over the last decade. And takeaway number four, Gary Stevenson is stepping down as Deputy Commissioner of Major League Soccer next July, has nearly a 5-decade career in sports business, an amazing builder of businesses, and we're about to enter an interesting period of transition among MLS leadership. I will be in New York for the rest of this week and actually all of next week. My colleagues will bring you the Buzzcast. I know I'll see many of you in New York City, and I look forward to that. And that is your morning Buzzcast for Wednesday, November 12th. I'm Abe Madkour. Thanks for listening. Stay healthy. Be good to each other. I will speak to you down the road.